Welcome anyone to my YouTube channel. This is Everett, aka Two Beasts to Kill You, aka the Beast with the Least. And Bungie just recently released its new expansion for Destiny 2, Edge of Fate. The start of their Fate Saga? Their Fate Saga. That is what they're calling it. And, well, I have some thoughts. But let's hit that intro first. Alright, so let's get into this. For the quick just summary, if you want to know I enjoyed it or not, yes and no. I know that's not really still an answer, but certain aspects I enjoy just because it's Destiny, and then there were certain aspects I really did not enjoy. Mainly due to new additions and everything. But, quick little review. I'd probably give this like a 5 out of 10 if I were to give it a numbered review. Maybe 6. So, I'll just go ahead and get into a more detailed review now. This is going to be more, on what was added with the expansion and gameplay stuff and everything, because the story, as much as I liked it, I don't think it really saved the expansion for me. As much as I would have enjoyed just to focus on the story, they added in things that just takes away from me. Don't worry, no spoilers for the story, but yeah, I enjoy the story. I enjoy the new character, Lodi, and his backstory and everything. There's a new character, I believe, named Orin. She was interesting enough, but she's not really there, or as much of a focus as Lodi. Clearly, Lodi was the main focus, but the story just deals with the Nine and and why they're here on this on Kepler, and why they've basically actually summoned all the characters to Kepler. I'll probably just give a little bit of spoilers at the end, or more toward the end of this video, but yeah, that's basically the premise. And then you play Destiny, and there you go. So, I'll start with the pros. So the shooting is still just the best. One of the best. If you enjoy Bungie games, their shooting, it still feels top notch. It still feels like top of the line and everything. That hasn't changed. Whether you've been a fan of Bungie from their previous games like old Marathon or Oni, to obviously Halo and now Destiny, This is what they do. They know how to make shooters. They know how to make them feel good, and all that stuff. So that's not changed. So I don't really have much to add on to that. Lodi, the new character with the glasses, he does look out of place. I will say that. But it makes sense why he looks out of place when the story progresses and everything. He's not just a guy they added and oh yeah, here he is. There is actually kind of a reason why he looks the way he looks. Because he just looks like a normal guy compared to the rest of the characters in the game. He actually even, I think, makes a joke at one point that everyone looks, dresses weird in the Destiny universe. But, another great character that's he doesn't get enough focus still is a Drifter, but what he does in this, that they add him into the story, because obviously he is tied to the Nine, with what he has on his ship. He calls it the Hull and everything. Not the ship, what he has on the ship. That comes into play at some point, but obviously because, yes, he's, one of the characters that was like an emissary, or he's just the Nine basically used him at some point, and now he's just there now. And then in the story, his purpose comes together, or what he thinks was his purpose that the Nine had for him all this time. Kind of that happens with a lot of characters. I guess a little bit of minor spoilers is that all these characters that were added in, or that are focused, whether it's Ikora, Orin, Lodi, your character, apparently the Nine basically orchestrated everything for them to end up at this point. There's time travel shenanigans and stuff like that. Drifter, he's good in what he has in this in the expansion and the story. Also, too, they added in a new race called Aeonians. I do like what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be a human race that was, they're ancient. They've kind of been on the outside of everything. Kind of like, I guess, Lightfall, too, with, I'm not remembering the planet, but, they've been outside of everything. They weren't part of, the Golden Age and the downfall and everything. Or the collapse, I guess, or whatever, of humanity and the darkness really being there. They have this mechanic where you don't understand them, but you go around gaining Rosetta. They call it Rosetta stones or whatever. Obviously, you know what the Rosetta Stone is. So, you learn their language, and also helps, with the open world structure, which I'll get into a little bit, for opening secrets and everything. But yeah, so they added in a new race. I guess a new faction, we'll say. As for the enemies, so you're mainly fighting the Vex and Fallen, or a new set of Fallen, I guess. Not really, but also at the same time, you're fighting the Vex that, if you've played was it episode 1 Echoes, I believe, that Vex that Maya Sundaresh is controlling and leading, the conductor. And then the Fallen are just, they're the Fallen, the Elixni. And, they fly now. So, yeah. Again, I did enjoy the story. I'll get into some spoilers now. We're a little deep into this discussion. So yes, the Nine are they're the driving force for this story. Basically, by the end, you find out that one of them is dead, and now you have to basically, it's still cryptic, but you have to, quote-unquote, bind the Nine. You find out that Lodi was sent from the past. He knew Ikora when she was still her previous life, a character named Nella Davis, and that the Nine actually had her killed so she could eventually become a Guardian, in the future. Apparently, I'm not remembering if it was explicitly said, but it's pretty much implicit or implied that they did the same thing to your character, because they made sure that every character that was here ends up right where they need them to be at this point. And the Orin character was a character that they were speaking through. That she basically just got her, took control of herself. And so now she's just a driving force of like, okay, we got to do this and do that. It's destiny. The story isn't, when it comes to, or just Bungie in general, when it comes to the set pieces, they're great. And it's kind of a bare bones story. It's always about characters. So it's just learning what was going on with these characters and what's happening with them. Well, specifically in the Destiny franchise anyway. That's really like the main focus of the story. Another thing is Lodi is very, very well voice acted. I don't know the name of the voice actor, but he does a phenomenal job voicing Lodi. Like, that guy deserves an award for that. So, yeah. And then for the last pro, the open world structure. I do like it. They try to make it a little bit more... I've heard the term Metroidvania, where you're gaining abilities to open up new parts of the world and to get into certain parts of the world and everything. And I would agree with that. Metroidvania probably works best. And so for that, I really do enjoy what they added for the open world exploration and everything. Because you don't get a lot of that, in these types of games. And you didn't really get a lot of that in previous expansions. So I enjoy that they were trying something new. But now that takes us to the cons. So, I even though I enjoyed that they tried something new, it also was a detriment to me that they did try some new stuff. They have some new game mechanics that, for me, I'm going to preface this again, for me, did not go over well. So, again, I enjoy the open world structure, but I also didn't enjoy it because that's how you go through the story. A lot of it is just go from point A to point B, and I think when you're trying to do missions, it can just be a little, maybe just a little bit bland. Because I see what they were trying to do. They didn't want to just have missions where you go, like in previous expansions where you just go here, start a mission, go here, start a mission. No, they kind of did the thing where it's like, okay, do these things, now you can do the next mission. Now do these things, now you can do the next mission. So that open world aspect kind of seemed like it padded it out for me. And so it did knock it down a bit. Which, I still enjoyed the campaign story, but that campaign structure was just very, again, middling for me, and it was it just seemed to stretch out the story, maybe because they thought they didn't have enough. If it would have turned out that maybe the campaign would have ended up being like 2-3 hours because they didn't do this, I think I would have been fine with that. But it is what it is. Again, it's not for me. Maybe other people enjoyed that, to stretch out the story and everything. But for me, it just kind of killed momentum every so often. Where I do a main mission and now, okay, I gotta stop and do a bunch of these smaller missions to get this item that then now starts the next step in the main storyline. It is a momentum killer. Speaking of momentum killers, though, was what I mentioned earlier, some new gameplay aspects they added. So instead of just shooting, now they have a little bit more puzzles and platforming in the campaign with the Matter Spark and Relocator thing. Also, I don't remember what it's called, but you just get this weird vegetable fruit looking plant thing, and you can then throw your grenade that puts platforms somewhere. It just reshapes the world a little bit, or just some parts of the world, to then make platforms. That was fine. That platform, those little platform making whatever, fruit things, plant, because it was barely there. What wasn't barely there, what was just so prevalent, was the Matter Spark and Relocator. The Matter Spark was just... It seemed to break up the gameplay. Like, they wanted to break up the gameplay of just shooting. And so they added this in where, okay, now you turn into this ball of spark and you have like a little bit of electricity so you can power up certain things to open up the next spot or to go over here and do that. And that was fine. It's fine, I think, for the open world aspect of when you're exploring out of combat and out of main missions. But when you're actually doing missions, it did seem like it was just again, padding and stretching out. Like an example, there's one point where you're shooting, you go into the room, shoot up a bunch of enemies, clear it out, and now there's a force field to get to the next room. And instead of making it where, like, okay, you're just turn into the spark, you turn into the matter spark, and unlock whatever to open up the force field to get into the next area. You just literally go into a pipe that goes around and leads you into the next room to shoot up more enemies. So in that aspect, it just seems like they're just trying to draw out a little bit more instead of just, okay, now you move on to the next room and shoot the next set of enemies. And it's like, okay, turn into a ball, get into this pipe, and now take an extra 15 seconds for really nothing. Yeah, and the same thing with the relocator. Now, there was some smart stuff with the relocator, some smart puzzles where, you have to shoot these little satellite-looking things to move them into certain positions, to then shoot the main satellite that then fires everything around to then open up the portal so you can get to the next area. But again, there were certain points where it just looked like, oh, you just shoot this one thing real quick, it moves a little bit, now you shoot the main satellite and then the portal. So it just seems like it's there to add in an extra 30 seconds, until you move to the next area to fight enemies. And so for me, when it did that, when it just seemed like it was just there for stretching out, gameplay segments or the mission, it just seemed like it was unnecessary at points. Not every time. There were points where, yes, it seemed like, okay, I see why they added this in, and this was a smart implementation of Matterspark and Relocator, where, like, it's clearly like, okay, you're moving through and you got to solve this puzzle to get to the next area, but it was more of an extended, like, segment and a bigger room and all that stuff. But I can probably count how many times that happened for each style of gameplay on one hand, because it did seem like they just made it where it was a quick little, okay, do it real quick, now you get to the next area, let's go. So yeah, I was not a big fan of the Matterspark. Also at the same time, it seemed a little, when you're in the Matterspark form, it seems like you're kind of on ice. The way it moves around, it was a little wonky. I mean, I got used to it, obviously, after a while, but it was still just a little... Some other new additions that they did, they added world tiers to make everything a little bit harder. There's a lot of side quests once you get through a certain point of the gameplay, and then after you beat the game, so you can get more story and everything. Just more backstory on characters, more stuff to do. I do like the implementation of, like, now they have the portal. So it is a little odd that they just didn't add the planet to go to on the map. It's a portal, and you just go to a little, the planet is still in the portal to choose, like, oh, okay, I want to go here, and then do the open world exploration. I don't know if they added that as, like, okay, we're going to just add more to it, and they just wanted to maybe not have so much clutter in the in where you actually choose your destination, the destination chooser and everything. So we'll have to see, because they are going to do more expansions. There's Renegades later on this year. I did get the $100 edition of the year pass, so I will be playing Renegades when it comes out. But yeah, there's they made it a little bit quicker to get into, to activities. They call it the fire ops or team ops or some solo ops, things like fire team ops. There we go. To fire team ops, solo ops, all that stuff. Just to, quickly get into things, to the gameplay and activities, and to do stuff. And also, they added in weeklies, like a little weekly pass thing, along with your actual like season rewards pass. A little weekly pass where you gain experience, you get more stuff. So I see what they're doing with these new additions into the expansion that presumably they're going to carry over into later expansions and more as hopefully they keep continuing with Destiny. But yeah, overall, like, I enjoyed playing Destiny. I enjoyed playing Edge of Fate because of shooting, and I just enjoy Destiny overall. I did not enjoy the Matter Spark and Relocator gameplay, and those happened far too often for me to fully enjoy the game or the expansion, which is why in the end I'm gonna say that Edge of Fate overall was just disappointing. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it was very disappointing for me. But yeah, I think that'll end it right there. If you like what I do on this channel, I always say this, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Still trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. Once I get there, then we'll keep going, try to get 10,000, maybe 1,000,000 one day. Probably never gonna happen, but man can dream. But yeah, again, if I can hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, I'll start doing videos on camera. But we'll see what happens when we get there. Until next time, I'll catch you later.